Welcome to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society, where Major League and Minor League athletic trainers share insight into athletic training at the highest level. This week on Inside Athletic Training, we welcome in Joe Trujillo, the head athletic trainer at the Oakland Athletics Dominican Republic complex. Enjoy the show. Joe, welcome to Inside Athletic Training. We're extremely happy to have you on for our 19th episode. We like to start each show by asking our guests if they can share a bit of information with the listeners about the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainer Society. So if you don't mind, can you share some info about PBATS, what the society means to you, kind of your relationship with PBATS, and also if it's been valuable as a resource thus far in your career?
Hey, yes. Thanks for having me on, Sam. It's a pleasure. Yeah, PBATS is a super important tool for the ATs that are working inside of pro ball right now, and it was super helpful as a resource for me when I was trying to get in. There's a lot of valuable info on scholarships and on internships that you can apply for when you're still in school, so you can make a seamless transition once you get out of college right into the show, so to speak. So for me, it was super important to kind of know and go through the roster of who were the athletic trainers at the major league level with each organization, and try to find them on LinkedIn, or if I saw them at a conference here and there, to try and network with them. And it's also the place where you'll find the postings for any available positions through the major and minor league system. So I was refreshing that page every off season. Like I thought I was about to break my my computer refresh button or my mouse to see what would come up and try and be an early applicant to stuff. So they've been an absolute great resource, and the PBATS committees are just always working to make our lives and our profession and professional baseball to recognize what we do, and kind of students and people pull back the curtain sort of experience with what it is that we do in the clubhouse and underneath the stadium.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And obviously the goal of PBATS, as many of you know, is to be an educational resource. So it's great to hear that people in your position who are now breaking into the game are using that, that resource to their advantage. Well, Joe, you're currently the head athletic trainer at the Dominican Republic complex for the Oakland Athletics. You're extremely passionate about athletic training and sports medicine. We'll get into your career and your day-to-day, and I know people are itching to hear about that. It's definitely a unique position. But first, I want to learn a bit more about your background and what paths led you to where you are today. So let's take it back to the beginning for you. Where are you from? Tell people if you were an athlete growing up, and also where you found your passion overall for athletic training.
Yeah. So I'm from probably the southernmost city in the state of Colorado called Trinidad. I lived there until I was about 8 years old, and I moved up to a northern suburb of Denver called Thornton, where I went to school until I was 18 years old when I moved to Arizona to go to college. Of course, I played sports growing up. I think that most of the athletic trainers that I've come across in their career have played sports growing up. Otherwise, general public doesn't quite know what an athletic trainer does, or that misnomer that's out there. So yeah, I played any sport that I could get my mom to sign a permission slip for since middle school. And then in high school, I kind of, as a left-handed thrower, and I kind of stuck with football and baseball, through high school years and stuff like that. And I found my passion for athletic training the first play of my summer scrimmage before my senior year of football. I broke my ankle. Literally the first play, no kickoff, nothing. We started with the ball at the 20, and I snapped, crackled, and popped my ankle. And up until that point, luckily, I hadn't really been injured through high school, so I didn't know that we even had somebody to take care of injuries at the school. So, once things got rolling and I was out of the hospital, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And I was like, oh, there's this great resource at the school. And I'll always remember Dave Dovey for dealing with me and helping me get set. I missed my senior year of football, unfortunately, but he got me heading in the right direction to participate in my senior year of baseball, which has meant a lot to me. And having to spend so many days, kind of on the rehab side of stuff, you get to talking with the AT and like, hey, what do you do? This is such an interesting job setting. I see you at the sidelines and practices and stuff. And what do I have to do to get to be what you're doing? And from that conversation, it just started to snowball kind of as, okay, now my college decision is what's going to be, where can I get into a sports medicine program or athletic training program to do what Dave is doing?
Yeah, and that's super interesting. We found that a lot of athletic training careers start because of an injury to the actual person themselves, and you get to know the athletic trainer, the training room, and really just grow an interest for the profession. But I want to get into a bit about what you just discussed in terms of getting into the game. You're in the Oakland A's organization now. You have vast experience in athletic training. But talk to the listeners a bit about what it's like getting your start in professional baseball. I know you're a couple years in at this point, but where did you find that start? How did you get in touch with someone to get your shot? Share a bit of information about just kind of how you broke into the game.
Yeah, so I networked like crazy on LinkedIn. I would send connection requests, 20, 30 times a day to people and send emails and all of that. To ATs that were in the game, just wanting to network. And I applied for position after position each off season. And for one reason or another, I just could never find an organization that wanted to offer me a position. So every time I would, not be accepted for a position, I would ask for feedback from the medical coordinators, how can I become a better candidate? What could I improve upon to make the cut next year? And I received some valuable feedback from, every medical coordinator that I heard from. And I think that for young ATs, don't be afraid if you apply for a job and you don't get it right away. There's a lot of people that want to have this job, and only a select few of us are lucky enough to get an offer. And you just keep trying and ask for that feedback. I think I've had other coordinators speak to me about it, like they appreciate that follow-up because it shows that there's an intent and initiative that'll be important for all aspects of your career as an athletic trainer. I finally was working in the high school setting, and, it gets towards the end of the year and it's spring training for the, major league club. And I sitting with my wife and I said, honey, I'm just going to take one last chance at this. I don't know if there's a position that would fit with our life right now, but let me just check PBATs. And sure enough, there was a seasonal hire position that the Oakland A's had, which is not too far from where I live, year round. And my wife said, yeah, do it. What's the worst that can happen? And I was like, you know what, I will. So I went through, submitted my application process. I have to give credit where credit's due. My wife, she is like the pro at Canva and created my resume and my portfolio for me. And I reached out to ATs that I've known from old baseball positions like Richard Stark, who's with the Cincinnati Reds for a long time. Yeah. And just asked him to kind of review the portfolio with me. And, I went into my interview and I was pretty confident. I've gone through a few of them at that point. And I guess I managed to pull the wool over Nate Brooks and Javi Alvarez's eyes, and they offered me the position the next day. So I spent my first year in pro ball last year as a seasonal hire in Arizona Complex League. And I'm so thankful for them to give me my chance. I spent the whole season kind of, making sure I was crossing my T's and dotting my I's and going above and beyond. And even during instructional league, I wasn't sure if I was going to be asked back. And with about a week left in instructional league, they took me into the office and, said, Joe, we like the effort that you've put in so far, and we'd like to offer you a full-time position as the head athletic trainer down in our Dominican Republic comp. So it takes some time. I definitely think that once you get your foot in the door with an organization, you feel like, man, I've kicked it into the highest gear that I know that I've had. And then when you get your foot in the door, it's how do you find the next gear to make you worth hiring on as a full-time?
Sure. No, that's awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that story. And like a lot of the athletic trainers, whether they're in the Dominican or Arizona instructional league, or even, like Brian Shulman, who leads the entire staff in Oakland, everyone, says persistence is key, and having that intent to get something done is key. So kudos to you for getting that done. And and breaking into the game, which can be a difficult task for many. So I want to get into a bit about your actual role in the DR. So being the head athletic trainer at the Dominican Republic complex, a big responsibility dealing with a ton of players, a lot of prospects, a lot of young players, which we'll get into later. But most of our listeners probably don't know much about that job. A lot of people might be familiar with the athletic trainer at the major league level, but not so much as we go down the ranks. So can you let our listeners know a bit about the main duties and responsibilities of your current role?
Yeah. And, I got to be honest as well. When I was, in high school and even as a baseball fan, I didn't really know that there were academies down here in the Dominican Republic, that had ATs and staff down here. You just think that Latin American players come to the States and that's how it starts, but it really does start with them young. I have 16, 17, 18-year-old players down here that are in their first few years as a pro ball player. I am responsible for administering and directing the healthcare for all of our players and our coaching staff down here. So I spend a lot of time setting up doctor's appointments for when players need imaging or when players they're sick and they need to get some medicine. And I'm so thankful for the work that other ATs that had my position have done for me, because we have a great network of local physicians that I can text at, any time of the night and say, hey, a player needs this kind of symptoms. What do you recommend me do? And they're so quick to respond. And outside of that, I'm still responsible for like the traditional stuff that ATs are known for. I'm in the training room doing pregame or pre-practice treatment. I'm out at the fields watching batting practice or the game. And then, after the practice, we come in, we eat, and then, I got post-game treatment, post-practice treatment, and then I have all the documentation that goes along with that. But on top of that, since, I don't have the same luxuries as we do in the United States, as far as being able to send my players to physical therapy clinics or whatever the case, I have to get creative with, designing throwing programs for guys that are coming back from forearm flexor strains or shoulder pathologies. And I work hand in hand with our head strength coach down here to develop running programs and progressions on guys that have lower extremity injuries and all that. So it's always an ongoing conversation throughout the day and throughout practice, and a lot of, hey, what are you getting out of such and such player? How does he look like he's running today? How is his lift? So it's a lot of communication with a lot of different people who all have different investments of time in each player.
Sure. And getting into that communication a bit, we know how big the athletic training and sports medicine staffs are across the league. I'm wondering, in terms of communication with your minor league medical coordinator or, Nate Brooks, like you mentioned, or the major league staff, what does that look like for someone in your position?
Yeah, so we have a new Latin American coordinator this year. His name is Nick Volker, who has been a great resource. I text him every single day. We have discussions about what I see in a player down here and how I want to progress on his throwing program. And we're just checking the boxes to make sure that what the athletes are getting down here for their rehab progression is what they can expect up when they get to Arizona and then the next levels from there. So it's an ongoing conversation with Nick each day, and a lot of different moving pieces with that. And Nick is talking with Nate and with Javi, who's our rehab coordinator now, about what they're expecting. So it's a lot of lines of communication that, go right up to Brian Schulman, who oversees all of it. But yeah, it's been, you have to be a effective communicator in this, because we have very busy schedules. And if we can just shoot a text off saying, here's player X, this is what he did today, here's what I'm thinking, what are your thoughts? And then wait for the reply for the end of the day. And so it's usually stuff like that.
And then that's just a small piece of what you do every day is communicating up the chain to let people know how players are progressing. But I'd love to get into more specifics about the day-to-day aspects of your job. So as the head athletic trainer at the DR complex for the Oakland Athletics, walk us through what could be a quote unquote normal day for someone in your position with the club. What's life like for the head AT in the DR? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So I know that people will kind of shy away from these hours that I'm about to say. So it'll be interesting, but this is what my life typically is. So I wake up at 4 a.m. every day to get a lift in when I don't have a lot of players needing pre-game or pre-practice treatment. I get my lift in, come back to my room that's on the campus, and I'll shower, and I'll start treating the players anywhere from 5 a.m. To 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to 7:30, depending on how many players I have on the injured list at the moment. Then I go to the staff meeting, which is I already have my injury report prepared the night before about who's available to do whatever activities for the day, because the coaching staff, they're worried about what can player X play or can he not? Can he take batting practice or no? So being an effective communicator there. Then I usually try and steal a little bit of breakfast before I set up the water out for the game or for the field. If I can sneak a couple of minutes in to start working on some arm care notes for the players that come in or the pitchers that come in that are assigned to arm care for the day, I'll knock that out on computer work because it's less for me to do in the afternoon. And then I go out to practice or to the games, usually from 9 a.m. active warm-up, and on a practice day, we're off the field probably around 12:30, and the players come in and lift. On game days, for today, for example, for today, we started the game at 11, and we got off the field about 2:30, and then we came in and had lunch, and the players took a shower before we started post-game treatment. So I finished up with work and my notes about 5. That's a typical day for me. And then after I finish up with the injury report and send it out to my higher ups, I start planning the rehab treatments for the next day or the arm care board for the next.
Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love, not only for you and the DR, but for Brian and Nate and really anyone in the profession, during the season, how busy and crazy things are going to be for you guys. So it's really, just awesome to see everybody putting in the work that way. And, one thing I find interesting is, you're in your second year in professional baseball, first year full-time, but you're clearly getting some awesome hands-on experience that not many people who start off as a Major League Baseball intern or something higher up might get. So I'm wondering, can you talk a bit about your experience in the DR and how much hands-on work you're getting and how instrumental that might be going forward in your career?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about being here in the Dominican is it's a Latin American country, and all the players speak Spanish down here. And I did not, plan my career out when I was in high school very well. So I had studied French, which I remember zero of.
Of course.
And I didn't know any Spanish before I got here. So the year initially was difficult, and you get tons of practice every day. I went from knowing zero to being able to have a fairly decent conversation with players. The thing that's interesting about being down here is I'm kind of a one-man circus. I don't have assistants. I don't have anybody that really I can have help me when players are getting busy or when I have to be in 3 places at once. So you have to think outside the box a lot when it comes to rehabs and scheduling. And we don't have, the availability of Amazon out here, where if I need supplies or I want to buy a new piece of equipment, I can get it just immediately. I have to wait for it to go through customs and shipment. So planning ahead to know what your inventory is like is crucial out here to make sure that you have enough stuff for the whole season. But it's kind of nice going from working in the high school setting where I was the only AT, and I had like 300 or 400 athletes, throughout the whole school year. I get to work with the same age groups more or less, and I have a lot less players to look after, even though they keep me busy for sure.
Sure.
But yeah, it does, I feel, benefit me because I'm going to learn great time management here, and every athlete that's hurt, I'm the one that gets to, evaluate them and get my hands on them and direct to the rehab and get that stuff that, in some positions you may not be able to get as an intern or as a person if you don't show that initiative and want to get into the treatment tables and really start, getting into these guys and learning how to stretch a shoulder or how to do, myofascial decompression and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely some awesome stuff that you're learning down there, and clearly just you're making an impact on those players in your care, and then that's something to be proud of. One thing that's really interesting about hearing your story breaking into the game is just the mentors and people that I'm sure you've learned from throughout the years. Now that you are in professional baseball, you've accomplished that goal. Obviously you have tons of goals that you want to accomplish going forward in baseball. But what advice might you give to someone in your position a couple of years ago, a college student or a young professional looking to get into athletic training in professional baseball? Is there a skill or a personality trait or just any advice that you would provide for them?
Oh yeah, tons. I've been super fortunate to have a lot of mentors in my life, in and out of the athletic training profession. And I think the primary one that I can kind of sum up is selflessness. There's a lot of times that you're going to be tired and you're going to be frustrated with things. And when players need you, you kind of have to drop everything and make sure that they're getting taken care of, because that's why you're out here and you're in the position that you're in. Mm-hmm. So if you can you got to be a selfless person with a servant mindset. You're here to help the players get back on the field and support in any way that you can. And sometimes that means driving them yourself to a doctor's appointment or going with them, even though you'd rather get a head start on tomorrow's work. And then I would say, once you get confident in yourself, ask other people for help with small tasks. I have a local athletic trainer out here who's been with our club for 45 years. His name's Mario Klime. He's 73 years old, and I love him. And he does my water for me every single day, and he does it with a smile, and he is just willing to help wherever. And, I admire that trait from Klime, because it's hard to bring the same energy level every single day of the year. And sure, you need to, because the players are they're seeing your energy. If you come in and you have low energy, the players that are already on a treatment board and not necessarily playing in games are going to reciprocate that with you. And so you got to try, even though it's hard some days, to just be upbeat. It's a blessing to be serving in the role that you're serving. And for the players, it's a blessing for them to be able to call themselves a professional baseball player. And you got to just keep that mindset every day when you get out of bed.
Yeah, it's just an awesome attitude about, any profession and just anybody going to work is being thankful for what you have and what you're doing. And to talk more about what you're doing down there, your day-to-day tasks are super interesting. Obviously getting a ton of valuable experience down there. One thing that I find super interesting about your position is just the ages of the players you're working with and you're caring for. Can you talk a bit about what it's like working with some of the youngest prospects in baseball and in the A's system right now, compared to being at another level where there might be some more polished players at this point?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, it's 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that I'm dealing with, and it's their first years away from their families, and they're not all from the Dominican Republic. It's not like they can go see their family on the weekend. These guys are from Venezuela, they're from Cuba, they're from all over, and they're making a commitment to be out here and not see their family, with the hopes of going to the U.S. and being even further away from their family. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of, having to play like nurse or mom or dad from time to time, because it's when they get a stomach ache at, 3 a.m, the person that they're going to come knock on the door is going to be you. And you got to kind of be there like a parent would be, to say, everything's going to be fine. Here's some medicine, and, you're going to be okay. Another thing is the guys up in the higher levels, they have kind of understood and developed their bodies and know, like, hey, on a day that I threw X amount of pitches in the bullpen, I kind of feel like a little bit more sore on my scapula. So maybe I should go see the AT for a little bit of tissue work. Mm-hmm. A lot of the players that I've had down here, they want to be tough and macho, so they, will try and hide discomforts that they're feeling, because they're afraid of showing a weakness or not getting to play every single inning of every single game. And it's just not realistic for the amount of games that we play. So we encourage our players to adhere to our arm care program for all of our position players a couple times a week. And pitchers are always doing arm care. They always have something to do. because we find value in that. And their moneymaker ultimately is going to be their arm and their body. So we want to try and encourage them to, like, hey, when your dog is barking on your shoulder, talk to Joe, because we don't want something small that we could have handled with a couple of days of massage or some treatments become a problem that's going to sit you down for the next month and a half. So it's really just trying to educate them on, you're a professional ball player now, and you have to at some point take responsibility for your body, because this is your job. That's always.
And do you find, one really interesting point you made there is about people early on in their careers being a little intimidated or scared to kind of show you or show someone on this athletic training staff that they are hurting. Have you found that the longer you work with players and the more personal that relationship gets, that people are more open to kind of coming to you with their injuries, or is it pretty difficult to kind of get in that relationship?
No, absolutely. The more comfortable that the player gets with you, the more that they'll open up to you about stuff. I have plenty of examples of players that were hurt that I couldn't tell you if they spoke any English or if they even spoke Spanish. And at the end of their treatments, be it a week, a month, whatever, I learn about their family, where they're from, if they have, kids of their own, and if they're, feeling okay, and all the other aspects, which puts the athletic trainer in a really unique situation, because we get to see them at their worst time, typically because they're hurt, they're not playing, and they just open up. There's something about those treatment tables that they just want to open up and tell their story. And when you're listening, it's crucial that you're taking note of this information from the mental health standpoint of a player, and from just their general well-being. And it's good information that you could then relay to the appropriate staff members. A team mental wellness, our team mental wellness staff that we have that comes down here to talk with our players, and our coaching staff needs to, know if a player's just feeling generally fatigued because they're staying up till 3 a.m. talking on the phone with a family issue every night instead of getting healthy sleep. So yeah, it's an interesting part about being down here is how, or with any athletic trainer in any profession, and they'll tell you that the players will open up and you'll get to know way more about them than you probably need to know when they're getting treatments, and you get to know them in a particular way that probably not every staff member does.
Yeah, and we spoke last week with Todd Tomzik of the Pirates, director of sports medicine up there. Todd's been in the game forever, really accomplished athletic trainer, but he again mentioned the same thing you did, that in the training room, on the table, it's a time to bond. It's a time to talk as human beings, not as athletes or athletic trainers, but really to develop that relationship and create a safe space in the training room, which is really cool to hear that happens regardless of the level. One thing I did want to turn to now is just the continuing education. You're someone who's very motivated, clearly very persistent, and has an intent for everything he does. In terms of your education, certifications, licenses, CEUs, talk a little bit about the constant drive that it takes to stay abreast of all the new things and learnings that are possible in the field of athletic training.
Yeah. Oh man, super important. It's such a fast changing world of sports medicine. If you just went back 10 years ago and tell an athletic trainer, like, hey, 10 years from now in certain states, you're going to be able to take this needle and stick it into somebody's calf, and we're going to call it dry needling. They might look at you like you're crazy. And, now, and at least in the state that I'm in Arizona, we're able to do integrative dry needling for our players, and we've seen great results. Same thing with cupping and with instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization. It's super important, because if you're not keeping up with the trends of where sports medicine is moving and what our best practices are, then you're not really serving your players to the best of our ability. And so if you're not, trying to log on and read some current research every once in a while, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because you're missing a great development opportunity with that. And also, the nice thing about working with Oakland is they have an allotment for my own continuing education, and they don't say I have to take a specific course. So I kind of can see what I want to do with the money that they've allotted for my own continuing education, which is invaluable for my future of my career, be it with the Oakland A's or not. I will never lose this certificate just because I move on to a different organization. So it's always crucial. And I tell young students not to worry about becoming the quote unquote alphabet soup and trying to go out and get every single certification that they can get. And I'm sure you've heard about that as well. I mean, I only have my ATC license from school, but I've gotten certified in blood flow restriction, and I'm a hot grips practitioner, which is a instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization course. And, you know, I use what I've learned from that to get into the position that I am now. And BFR seems to be a huge thing. We use it a lot in our organization, and we have, you know, all of our staff has gone through the course with it. So there's a consistency from what they get with me down here and what they get in Arizona and up the chain to our major league level.
Yeah, clearly just so much information out there. And it's awesome to hear that you have the backing of your organization to go out and learn what you need to learn and kind of do things on your own that way. On the same topic of education, I know you're a graduate of Grand Canyon University. Talk a bit about your time there and how your years at Grand Canyon kind of helped form who you are and also your passion for sports medicine.
Yeah, so my time at GCU, I had left from a state, you know, in Colorado, and I've never been to Arizona. I never traveled out of the state of Colorado. I just kind of took a whim on a scholarship out there at GCU, and I said, well, I'm going to go here. We're going to study and see where it goes. I didn't expect to meet the people that I met at GCU at all. I had a clinical 3 and clinical 4 rotation with Kevin Graff, who just retired a couple of weeks ago after serving his whole career with Cesar Chavez High School in Laveen, Arizona. And he kept me in the athletic training profession, and because initially I was struggling with the workload and with prior experience that I had in my clinical 2. And so I kind of went into our clinical director's office and said, I don't really know if I want to continue with this program. And I'll never forget Mike McKinney sat me down and he said, Joe, if you walk away from the program, it might be one of the biggest mistakes that you'll make in your career. Let me send you to this preceptor that we have, and if it's not changed by the end of the clinical 3, then you know you can feel free to go a different way. So I'm beyond grateful for Mike McKinney for having that conversation with me, and Kevin Graff for, you know, not only having me for that one semester, but then that next semester, and really just kind of teaching me the ropes on getting in and what the profession of athletic training is. He has one of the biggest high school student athlete populations in the state of Arizona, and he's been a one-man circus his whole career, and he's never even considered asking admin for an assistant. He was just willing to put in extra time. So yeah, it was great. And then our program, my classmates and the structure of our program at the time was super well structured, I feel. And of course that was still when the, you know, athletic training requirements through Katie were a bachelor's degree for entry level. So we were able to knock out all 5 clinical rotations in our undergrad. I'm very thankful for all the people that played a role in that, but mainly Mike McKinney and Kevin Graff.
Yeah, and as you move forward in your career, obviously education is key. But you know, where you want to go is truly up to you and your hard work and dedication. So now that you are, you know, with the Oakland A's organization, full-time staff member in the DR, is there a specific career path that you currently have in mind that you'd like to follow, or are you really just kind of looking to take it year by year, put in the work and kind of see where things go?
Yeah, I would say probably a little bit of both at the moment. I think my long-term goal is to become a medical coordinator myself for the minor league system. I really enjoy watching Nate Brooks work and what he does. And I think that it's awesome that he is, you know, staying in the state of Arizona year round and, you know, dealing with a lot of our minor league players, and is able to also be a dad and a husband for his family. So I envy that as a long-term goal. It's where I would want to be. And my short-term goal, and where me and my wife are at the moment, we're ready for wherever professional baseball takes us. If it's to affiliates next year, if it's back to Arizona, I've kind of gotten my wife to sign off on about a 5 or 6 year plan here before we settle down. So I'm willing to go wherever this game is going to take me right now. But my end goal is definitely to be a husband and a father to my wife and kids when that time comes.
That's awesome. And I'm sure all that hard work you've talked about and we've learned about you will definitely pay off within the athletic system. Well, Joe, this has been awesome. You've shared so much information that students can take, and really you have a unique perspective of the game of baseball and athletic training down in the Dominican Republic. To wrap up today's episode, we're going to finish with a quick Q&A segment called Extra Bases. So I'm going to ask you 4 quick questions and let you provide the listeners with some insight into your favorite things about baseball and athletic training. So we'll get started at first base. You've made a couple stops on the way to your current role with the Athletics. I have to ask, what's one of your favorite jobs you've had on the way to your spot in the minor leagues right now?
One of my favorite jobs, I really enjoy being the head down here. It's great. I am thankful for the opportunity here, but I have to admit, being, super green in professional baseball and getting to spend a whole year in the Arizona Complex League and getting to watch Nate Brooks and Javi and Audie and Noah Huff work every day. I was trying to be a sponge with them and just kind of see hey, that's how they're doing shoulder stretch. I need to add that to my routine. Or, hey, that's how they're planning out their day for tomorrow and that. And just, there was so much baseball experience and so many years there that it was such a great experience. And I'm always going to be thankful for that. And I'm going to remember a lot of the lessons and conversations I had with those ATs, before and after work for the rest of my life.
Yeah, not many better coordinators to learn from than Nate Brooks. Everyone in baseball knows he does just an amazing job on the field and off the field with his charity work, and he's just an awesome guy all around. And moving on to second base, you might be a little biased here. I know you're a Denver guy, but what's your favorite baseball stadium to watch a game in?
After getting to spend time last year in Arizona, I have to say that from the athletic training perspective, I love Hohokam Stadium, which is our home spring training facility there. I think it's the only spring training facility in Arizona that still has the clubhouse underneath the stands. So we're able to go straight down these steep stairs right into the dugout. And so it makes things like arm care and going up to, grab a quick snack to eat during the game super easy without having to go down the line into the facility down left or right field. Yeah,
always. You guys are always seeing it from the athletic trainer's perspective of efficiency and moving quickly during the game. So I can appreciate that. Moving on to third base here. Whether this is personal reasons, entertainment, or for work in baseball, what's your favorite city to visit on the road?
Oh, Colorado. I love going back to my roots for a short period of time. Now that I've been in Arizona for 12 years, I can do without the winter. So it works out great working in pro ball because I can go and catch a Rockies game before I started working in pro ball. And Coors Field has just done so many renovations to make it even different from when I was a kid. I would go down there and you could get into the gate for rock pile tickets were $4 at the time. And I would just wait for one of the people working the gate to turn away or something and sneak down into, home run territory or kind of bounce around seats when I was younger. So a lot of memories there with Colorado. I still got to be loyal to them.
Of course, got to respect that. Moving on to home plate here, the last question for today. You're relatively new in baseball, but a lot of awesome experiences thus far at the Arizona complex and also now at the DR. Within these first couple of years of baseball for you as a professional baseball athletic trainer, did you have a welcome to the big leagues, essentially welcome to professional baseball moment at some point over the past couple of years?
Not really. I would say that initially my first couple of weeks down here in the Dominican, I had to really be careful of repeating whatever the players were saying to me, because sometimes they'll play tricks and tell you to say stuff that may not be the best thing to say. So it was that's probably the closest thing I can have to that. And but if I do get that welcome to the big leagues moment here next year, I'm ready for it when it happens, and I'll be sure to share that experience with whoever is willing to listen.
Absolutely. I'm sure more memories are coming down the road for you. You obviously have a bright future in athletic training, and we appreciate all the insights today. Again, thank you so much for joining the show, Joe. Appreciate your time, your dedication to PBATs and to the profession of athletic training. And we wish you and your guys down the DR nothing but the best of luck and a healthy season the rest of the way.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Sam, for having me on. It was a pleasure.
And that wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society, a show for athletic training students, educators, and professionals who want to learn more about life as an athletic trainer in major and minor league baseball. If you've enjoyed the show, head over to pbats.com to gain access to other free resources. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, thanks again for listening.